We're back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are rip-raring and ready to go. The Barrel Boys to take on the fellows from Canada. The Happy Fairy Dragons are going to be coming out strong here into the quarterfinals. They've had a little bit of time to wait and a little bit of time to plan, possibly even watch the stream, who knows. But some names that you might actually recognize here, Mr. Shane. Panda Jigu, Cothenluck, Sraylol. He was actually in the chat, I know that. And, their crew, they're going to be taking on the masters of ESL right now, the Barrel Boys.
So, as we mentioned, Barrel Boys has been, they've been on just a absolute tear recently in the ESL, not only in the majors, but also in the weeklies as well. Looking at Happy Fairy Dragons, we mentioned a relatively new team with familiar names. Cothenluck used to be on Glorious, and obviously Glorious definitely had their heyday. Looking at their recent record, though, specifically Harry Dragons, Happy Fairy Dragons. I don't know if they're hairy. I don't know what their ages are. I don't know what they're
Happy Harry Fairy Dragons.
The Happy Harry Fairy Dragons. The last week in the Go4Heroes American Cup number 13, they got to the finals. They went undefeated, obviously, as they're all best of ones. And they beat some pretty big-name teams. They took down Evil Geniuses in the semifinals. In the quarterfinals, they took down Cloud9 Vortex. In the earlier rounds, they took out ESV Wildfire. Those are three big names, three big teams who have had a good amount of success in Heroes of the Storm. So they definitely, are showing a lot of promise as a new team, taking down some relatively strong teams. But they lost in the finals to Barrel Boys. So a little bit of a grudge match coming up for them. See if they can knock them out this time. It's a best of one, not a best of three this time around. So if they're able to beat them one time, they're going to move on and potentially get into the finals.
Absolutely. All right, so draft is underway. We're going to Sky Temple, and the Dragons are actually going to be leading us off as the picks have been very rapid fire. They know what they want to be bringing to the table. So Rhaegar, banned, not on the table today. Sergeant Hammer, 3 for 3, banned on stream. It's does not do me any good to see Sergeant Hammer banned this much as a main myself, but it will be an Uther to start things off, counterpicked into Stitches and Tyrande, and now the Happy Fairy Dragons will settle with a Tassadar and a Vala.
Yeah, Sergeant Hammer, we've been seeing him ban so frequently, specifically on Sky Temple. Not only on Sky Temple, but Sky Temple, she's even more powerful than she is on the other maps, because once she gets situated on those temples and is able to sit back there in siege mode and get into prime position, she is so hard to deal with. She just destroys your front line, destroys anyone who gets near her. And obviously Barrel Boys don't want anything to do with that, taking her out. Looking at the draft so far, Illidan is still on the table. I feel like Happy Fairy Dragons definitely could utilize Illidan very, very well with the draft they have so far. Right. They have a cleanse, they have the damage mitigation through Tassadar, and just the skill set combined with the draft that Happy Fairy Dragons have could definitely work out very well with an Illidan pick. And Barrel Boys is definitely taking this into consideration, I feel. They're definitely taking their time at picking up a Jaina. So they're getting the Jaina, and that leads me to believe that they themselves are going to pick up an Illidan possibly. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know why.
That'd be a heck of a comp, Shane.
Yeah, it would be. But, I mean, picking up a Jaina against a team that already has a great Illidan lineup in front of them seems a little counterintuitive. We're going to see what their next pick is. I mean, they still, Tyrande is a support. You don't pick her for her healing, though. You pick her for her vision and her damage. So they still could definitely utilize another healing support. They already have their frontliner. So it's going to be interesting to see what they pick up here. I feel like Illidan is going to be the go-to choice here for Barrel Boys.
Well, that would leave him into just like that 1.5 support, as you said, Tyrande, not really there for that support mentality. But
I like this, actually.
All right, a Bright Wing it is. So if it is going to be an Illidan picked up here from the Happy Fairy Dragons, as you so portend, it could be an Emerald Wind for that reset, for that split right down the middle of them, and then you just stun and chain them out from there. The Jaina, as you said, as a pick into thinking that is going to be an enemy Illidan, that really feels a little gutsy, because we saw that scenario a little bit earlier in our first game of the night, where the Jaina and the Tyrande just had absolutely no peel, no real kind of big perma CC to deal with the diving ETC, the diving Illidan. So if it is going to be something similar here, now they have to deal with possibly it could actually be an ETC and an Illidan right here, because there's the battle cow. They've set themselves up for it so well. But they got the Tassadar, they have Divine Storm on the back of that, and then in the back lines will be that Vala, possibly with even a strafe to go for even more damage from afar. It could be a fantastic comp. We'll have to see if the Fairies are actually going to depend on that or not. But what will the Barrel Boys pick up for their last, assuming it is an Illidan?
Well, I feel like Barrel Boys are almost inviting Happy Fairy Dragons to pick up an Illidan here. Because they definitely, yes, they have a Jaina, and Jaina gets dumpstered on by Illidan, at least in one, theoretically, Illidan counters Jaina. But, and Jaina backed up with a Stitches with either Putrid Bile or Gorge. If the Stitches go Gorge, Gorges the Illidan or the ETC, pulls them into the back line. All of a sudden, a Hunter's Mark on top of a Lunar Flare, on top of a Blizzard Cone of Cold Frostbolt, on top of a Criticized Polymorph. That's a huge amount of burst damage that will take down anyone. You're not going to get away from that no matter who you are. Obviously, it's all about making sure that maybe getting a good cleanse off from the Uther to counter-initiate that, or something like that is they're going to have to be paying attention to. And these next two picks from both teams, I feel, are so very vital to both of these teams. Usually the fifth pick is kind of like a lackadaisical pickup. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, this is what we need. This is what's available. Let's pick it. But right now in this situation, both these teams have so many different directions they could go with what hero they choose. So Happy Fairy Dragon going with the Zagara. They could have picked up a Nazebo. They could have picked up an Illidan. An Illidan for Happy Fairy Dragons, I felt still would have been a pretty good pickup, even though Barrel Boys has a pretty good amount of tools to deal with it. But they're going to go with the Zagara, and now Barrel Boys are waiting to get their fifth pick.
So with that Brightwing pickup and the Jaina, I mean, as you said, there's a lot that you can do with that combo. The split with Emerald Wind into the triple dump from Jaina on the back of a stun or a hook or a gorge absolutely sets itself up very wonderfully for that anti-Illidan. So I think Happy Fairy Dragons were successfully dissuaded from it. Will the Barrels pick it up themselves? They do got their double support and a Stitches. And then on the back of that, again, they do have the little bit of a lockup in the CC and a lot of the slow from Jaina.
Yeah.
We've already seen Ring of Frost already today over top of that Water Elemental. So the Barrel Boys do have a good penchant here. I do think they need another melee, at least another frontliner. If it's not going to be an Illidan, a second tank could go well here to keep that Jaina and the Tyrande safe. If they don't want to go through that, then they're going to need another backliner. So a Tychus kind of comes to mind here.
Tychus, Nazebo would be good. The new build with Tychus that we've been seeing, it's not the typical, melting point into Relentless into Stone Skin. It's, wow, okay, I was not expecting that, a Zeratul pickup from the Barrel Boys. Once again, Nazebo Witch Doctor being completely neglected in this draft. That's very interesting. He seems to hold a lot of priority in so many different teams. Obviously, not this case around. So looking at these drafts as a whole, I'm trying to figure out the Zeratul pickup. It's Zeratul Stitches is a combination of a little bit of older times. It's always been powerful. It's always been a very good duo with these two heroes. You Stitch Gorge someone, you Void Prison 2, 3, however many heroes you can get in a Void Prison, and you basically turn a 5v5 team fight into a 2v5, 3v5. You guys kind of get the gist of it. And just pick people off and take the team fight from there. So it's going to be interesting to see this combination in action once again. Haven't seen it in a while, but it's still a very, very potent one nonetheless.
So those are going to be the drafts. We are just in lobby here. We're just kind of thinking about getting this game ready to go. It should just be moments away, ladies and gentlemen. I am more convinced now we will see Gorge from Barrel Boys.
Yes.
We are going, of course, to Sky Temple. If you guys didn't see the map there in the background, it is Sky Temple. And this is, there's a lot of different ways Barrel Boys can actually play this out. Because with the Stitches, they can go the hook into a Gorge, you VP the enemy team that tries to come to support whoever got Gorge, and then of course with the Tyrande and the Jaina, as you've mentioned, you just burst whoever is down as soon as they exit the belly. So you can go that way. Early game, we could see some roams coming in with the Tyrande as well as the Jaina, or the Stitches into the Jaina. Both of those would work out very well to complement that early game roam setup. They also have a Zeratul that they can use to roam around. So a Zeratul Tyrande or a Zeratul Stitches. The Jaina doesn't really feel like she kind of fits into that one because she relies upon someone to start off the initiation.
Right.
But there's a lot of ways that this early game can go for the Barrel Boys. I mean, they've set themselves up very diversely.
Yeah, I like it. I was not expecting that Zeratul pickup. He wasn't even in the back of my mind, but the more I think about it, the more you talk about it as well, the more I like the pickup in conjunction with the rest of the draft. Now, looking at Happy Fairy Dragons, they just have a very well-rounded draft. They have obviously good damage mitigation through Tassadar, damage application through Tassadar. Uther with his burst healing, his big AoE stun, his cleanse. That's kind of the big thing, is both of these teams both have a cleanse. The Brightwing Uther is the healing supports of old, when we used to see those picked up too almost exclusively. Obviously, Vala.
No Malfurion here.
Yeah, that's interesting to say, is that Barrel Boys had an opportunity to pick up Malfurion, but went with the Brightwing instead. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play this.
So Sky Tempo is loading in, guys. There is a possibility we'll have to actually jump out of game and into a new one based upon the conversations we saw here with the players. May or may not happen. Just keep it in the back of your mind that it will be the same game and it will still be the coverage coming forward for you guys. But if you don't know them, where have you been? These guys have been absolutely dominating the ESL majors, and they are here to prove once more so that they are #1. McIntyre into the top. Trummo, Kionda, Erho, and Blinks. They make up your Barrel Boys. Let's get some spam going, guys.
Barrel Boys hype, and on the left side of your map, ladies and gentlemen, is the team known as Happy Fairy Dragon. Up in the top lane is going to be Inkling on Uther. Don Luke playing that wonderfully majestic Master Skin, ETC. Cawthon Luck, a name easily recognized from his old team Glorious, playing the Zagara. In mid lane is going to be Sray on the Vala Demon Hunter. Bottom lane is going to be Panda playing the Tassadar. The gates are down. The game is underway. A little bit of a grudge match. The last time these teams faced was in the best-of-3 finals of last week's ESL Go4Heroes number 13, and they are at it once again. Fairy Dragons are looking to get a little bit of a revenge kill onto Barrel Boys, and that's quite a tall task to do, though.
So they got Blinks here into the bottom lane, has the Bribe. We don't really get to see a lot of Bribe play anymore with this current meta. McIntyre into the top is just holding down the soak, but up against that triple stack, he's not going to hold really a candle to it. And mid lane was actually populated by not only the Jaina, but the Stitches and the Tyrande. And you can already see they are ready and willing to roam. They're looking around that watchtower area, and they're looking for that hook. But who they really want to get a hook on here is going to be this Vala. Grabbing onto the Uther or the ETC this early on could prove problematic, and I'm not entirely too sure this map is going to be so susceptible to allowing that combo to kind of get any kind of early game pressure going.
Yeah, and establishing a strong foothold in the area surrounding the middle temple can really help out your early games substantially. Specifically, the first temple phase, hitting that level 4 as soon as you can, preferably before the enemy. The experience is pretty dead even, though. We see both of these teams are roaming constantly from the north and the south lane. Of course, don't forget that Barrel Boys has the Brightwing global presence advantage. And that Brightwing can remain in the bottom, continue to soak, continue to get an experience advantage, while Barrel Boys, the rest of the team, do a little bit soak and poke, hit that level 4, then all of a sudden that's going to give them a great opportunity for Brightwing to TP in here and take a team fight. They're not even going to have that, though, Sean. They are already picking away at the lineup of Fairy Dragon.
Yeah, Don Lu was really kind of a big target right there. He had some big bursts going down. Sray's going to get actually hooked out, but a nice heal from Inkling will keep him up. Don Lu has now hit the fountain as well. And this midpoint so far, a lot of these shots have now been forfeit over to the way of the Barrel Boys, and they are not looking like they're going to be giving it up anytime soon either. Now, Happy Fairy Dragons, they can try to do a 5-man push onto it for now, but you're also going to see now pressure from the Barrel Boys into the top shrine, because it's just like, I mean, they got the majority of them here. Even with this last 5, I mean, they still had 3/4 of the shots go their way. Very little damage here into the mid from the Fairy Dragons, whereas we don't have a gate anymore on the mid area for the Happy Fairies. So top, I'm a little surprised there's not more pressure going either way.
Yeah, one thing to note at level 4, this Zeratul build is very interesting. He Region Master, that's okay. That's becoming a little bit of a trend as it was buffed in the most recent patch, but he went with the sustained anomaly talent. Rather. So basically his singularity spike now does a little bit of AoE damage around it. Whether it hits a target or not, he can just kind of freely throw it around and does this AoE around where he throws it. Normally, what we see at that level is Gathering Power. And Gathering Power is a very strong ability, was nerfed not that long ago, but usually the go-to talent for any hero that can pick it up. So I'm wondering what other variations we're going to see out of this Zeratul build as the game goes on.
Now, Blinks has gone to the bottom lane to deny the Panda Jigu free farm. We also had a little bit of an experience gap being closed there by the Happy Faerie Dragons, but this means that they do not have tasks at our top. Erho is thinking, all right, they're going to try to start some beef into this top lane, but it so far is not working. Blinks has now abandoned the bottom lane, and the 5-man pressure will be too much for the Happy Faerie Dragons to deal with into this top. So both of these early shrines have gone the way of the Barrow Boys. 2 gates down, they're going to take out a pool into here as well. But Panda Jigu has been soaking, trying to push up as much as he can in the bottom lane as well. We have 1 tower out of ammo, the other one bit down to half, and Panda is going to keep them afloat with their experience. So overall, the trades is basically just the siege damage. There's no real experience lead gathered yet.
So Brightwing at level 7, foregoing Cleanse, which is such a strong ability. Instead, going with the powerful AoE Gust of Healing talent that basically makes her combat trait proc 4 times in a row every second. It's good for burst healing. It's a good AoE burst heal. It's really good at just keeping your team topped off in the middle of a hectic team fight, especially when you're dealing with a team who has a substantial amount of AoE damage like a multi-shot Valo and like the Psionic Storms coming out of the Archon. So it's not Cleanse, but I actually feel like in this certain situation, there's not a lot of huge stuns with the exception of the Uther, that the Gust of Healing can pay off and be just as effective.
So we do got these Stone Bros now throwing their stones on top of these bottom towers. The gate is going to live. I mean, there's just way too much counter pressure from the Barrow Boys to have it live. And now they're going to be pushing out themselves. Panda Jigu is not going to be able to really deny a lot of this, I feel. He's going to be put more on the back foot. But we do got pressure now developing elsewhere. The Bruisers into the top lane. They are going to be marching down here with Don Lu. Blinks, you'll notice, is now into this top lane because the next the next temple will be this bottom lane spawn, so once again positioning him to make the best use of his global presence. And it does look like the timing is now just right for the Barrow Boys. They're going to come in here, use, I think, a blink, or a bribe, and they're going to get their own bruisers now to counter push this top lane.
Level 10 is here for Happy Faerie Dragons. We're still 0-0. A lot of the games have been real, just passive play. A lot of zone control, a lot of outmaneuvering.
3 games in a row, yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of outmaneuvering, a lot of cerebral gameplay from these teams today. Even when we saw Diablo Illidan, which usually when you see Diablo Illidan, you expect heavy aggression. And that wasn't the case. Barrow Boys won their last team through just outmaneuvering and outpositioning their opponents. And right now, it looks like both of these teams are going to be facing off 4v4 for the bottom temple. Now, both of these teams have 2 people in the top, and both of those heroes, Brightwing and ETC, have a global presence. ETC going with the stage dive, so he's going to be able to swing into these team fights whenever. Obviously, Brightwing is able to do the same, and there is the initiation from Don Lu. A quick polymorph on top of him, right on top of a Starfall. Starfall in the middle of a choke point, and that is just doing a substantial amount of damage. But 2 are down already for Barrow Boys, and they're just going to have to back up here as they are losing this team fight quite badly. Vala is pretty low, Tassadar is pretty low, but he's going to get killed up from the Uther Ghost. So a 1-for-2 exchange going the way of Faerie Dragons. Now they're going to secure the bottom temple, and this is looking pretty damn good for them.
Yeah, the 2 deaths versus the 1. I mean, yeah, they were the supports that mostly took the brunt of that, but we still got quite a bit of damage now on the board from both sides. Don Lu, skin of his teeth, didn't become a hamburger today, but he will live to fight another day. And it looks like he has now taken quite a few of the shots from this bottom temple, and he has put them into that bottom fort area. Wow, how did that hook curve right around ETC and catch Cotton Luck? I'm not entirely too sure, but it will actually lead into the death of ETC, and the rest of the shots here will be successfully taken out by the Barrow Boys. We do got a Void Prison now on the table, but McIntyre, he's looking for the kill on top of Captain Luck, and the body block is real. Erho will take down the Queen Zagara, and now Srey could be in a little bit of trouble here as well. Do we have a hook? We do, and that will be enough with the blink forward, and McIntyre will get his revenge. So what looked like a pretty clear-cut win for Happy Faerie Dragons. They stayed a little bit too long, and the death timers at this point just not long enough, Shane. And they lose out a few too many kills there.
That fight was a 2-rounder. First round going the way of Happy Faerie Dragons, but the Barrow Boys went up, licked their wounds, reinitiated into there, and got a great kill onto the ETC with the Blizzard Cone of Cold combination coming out from the Jaina right by one of the small choke point areas at the bottom temple, and that pretty much enabled them to just go from there, get a good Void Prison on the Zagara, pick the Zagara up, and sweep up and get the Vala as well. So right now Barrel Boys have the level 13 advantage. They have the experience advantage. This boss is still alive, but I don't think any one of these teams wants to get anywhere near that or try to take that. It would be a very big risk to do so. And it looks like they're just going to get into the lanes, soak, maybe try to get some map objectives, a little bit more map pressure, and wait for mercenary camps to spawn, and wait for the next temple phase to begin.
Yeah, the next temple phase should be within the next 60 seconds or so. You should see that timer now coming up. But 3 temples so far. Barrel Boys have taken the majority of the shots. They do got majority of this map pressure now swinging their way. Blinks once again into this top lane. Don Lu up there as well, just trying to chase him down. That Echo Pedal absolutely doing some amazing work up against Blinks. Blinks, if you did notice, does not have Emerald Wind. He has the Blink heal. So he decided did not need it this round. And I did say back at draft, I'm more convinced that we're going to be seeing that Gorge, but Erho did actually opt to take the Putrid Bile. So a little bit of interesting choices, at least to me. I kind of saw some synergies, but I guess the Barrel Boys see some better ones with these pickups. Flip side, though, we do have the Strafe, so a lot of damage to be held there by Vala. If they can get into a nice CC comp with the, not the Mosh, with the Power Slide into Divine Storm, into the Maw, you could really see some big numbers there with that Strafe. But everything else seems to be pretty canon here. There's the temples, and once more, buildings are starting to fall.
So no mules coming out from either one of these teams, which means once this damage is done, it is permanent. There's no coming back, and that's definitely something to take in consideration for both of these teams. Looking at the Zeratul build, as I wanted to touch back on it a little bit more, now that we're at level 13, he is sticking with Wormhole. It's still going to be interesting to see what he picks up at 16. He's more than likely still going to get the double Singularity Spike, as that still synergizes very well with the level 4 talent Sustained Anomaly. So it's just I really, that little variation is real interesting to me. I wonder what the thinking is behind it. I'm definitely going to pick his brain a little bit after this game to see what the thought was. Panda is in some trouble. He is going to be going down. And thankfully, both the temples were captured. Else that could have turned into something much bigger. A little bit of a power play.
I think it's going to turn into a boss, Shin.
Yeah, actually, especially now that a phenomenal hook on Arrow onto Inkling. He used Cleanse on his Ghost itself. Didn't know he could do that. But yeah, now that they have level 16 AM, it's a 5v3 situation. They're going to be going for the boss here, and they should be able to get it with fairly easily.
Yeah, as soon as that kill went down on top of the Taskar bottom lane, I mean, we still got the double globals into the top, and now, as I said, it's that solidified kill on top of the Uther. There's just no map presence to contest this boss safely from the Happy Fairy Dragons. So again, a lot of these temples have gone the way of the Barrel Boys. They have a lot of siege damage now on the table, and that level 16 fishing hook hype is so real. There goes Zagara from the impossible reach of that Stitches, and that is going to be putting us again a little bit more ahead in terms of the experience. And once more, we are denying the 5-man defend. Now we got McIntyre in here as well. He's going to be pushing out. Is there actually going to be a follow-up? I was curious to see if it would be a Void Prison for a setup here, because here comes the rest of the barrels. That hook again showing us some amazing uses, and Don Lu is going to get out of that one on the skin of his teeth, but the gate is now down and the boss is pushing in, and it's still 10 seconds dead for Zagara.
That cleanse from Inkling onto Don Lu right before the Lunar Flare going down more than likely saved ETC's life. And through saving ETC's life, more than likely saved that Keep's life. So a very clutch cleanse coming out from Inkling right there. And they did lose the tier 2 towers, but they were able to clean up that boss pretty quickly. Not too much damage was done. Tier 2 towers do have a substantial amount of experience, but now that we're starting to hit into the late game, it's nothing too big. Next temple phase is going to be coming online here. So it's going to be the one in the middle right by the watchtower and the one in the north. Both of these teams are posturing, trying to get themselves set up, push the lanes out. And this looks like we're going to have a contention here in the mid lane. The watchtower is in the favor of Barrel Boys, and they know that Don Lu is on top of this watchtower. A hook on a Don Lu followed up by Lunar Flare. Cleanse needs to be there. Actually, it's on. Looks like it's still on cooldown. Don Lu's going to be able to get away with his own power slide. Strafe being used rather prematurely, so now Strafe is on cooldown. Barrel Boys recognize this, and they know that they're definitely in a good situation here, pending they don't throw a little bit too hard. There is a phenomenal Void Prison down to 3. Blizzard off the mark, but Donlu gets hit with the Lunar Flare. There's a protective shield as well. Inkling's very, very low. He's going to use Cleanse and Sprint on himself to get out. Donlu is also very low. No one going down yet, but Happy Faerie Dragons definitely have to get out of there. They have to retreat. They have already used a lot of cooldowns. They're very, very low. Barrel Boys are in prime position to get this temple. So even though no one went down, oh, actually no, Zeratul went down.
You got caught. He's way over here. Wasn't part of that team fight. Maybe he was chasing down Inkling. I didn't actually see him sneak off, but that is the point of the Zeratul. You don't really see him sneak off. That's the whole point of the stealth. But so a little bit unfortunate for Barrel Boys. I mean, they had a really strong position. They did actually finish out that temple, but now a man down. The Happy Faerie Dragons just saying, all right, well, this is doable. They're going to go into the top very smartly, though. They send Donlu into the bottom because we still have that stage dive ready to go. And this will help even further bridge that experience gap between these two teams. I would say it's still anybody's game at this point. 7-3 for kills is hardly a definitive number. And at 18 to 18 and a half, one bad fight could swing this either way.
Oh, Tassadar. Oh, Arrow has been on point with these hooks, Sean. Phenomenal hooks. It was on the Tassadar. Even with Dimensional Shift, he still almost went down. Stage dive was used. Don't know if there was a little bit.
I think that was a panic.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it was a little bit of a panic stage dive. Oh no, my Tassadar's going to die. We have to initiate. But it's on cooldown now, so Donlu is not going to have that backline initiation that he was looking for. But nonetheless, stage dive isn't a huge deal. It's not like a mosh pit. There is a big Void Prison, but a just as big Devouring Mod. 2v2 for a little bit there, ladies and gentlemen. But Donlu is caught out of position. There's the Polymorph. Perfect criticize, getting very low. A follow-up hook. He's going to go down. But now Zeratul is down as well. 4v4 in this team for it. The Water Elemental is going to be picked apart. And both of these teams are wounded. And Lion on the floor, crawling away, bleeding. But only one for each team, and experience has evened up. This game is so very even right now, Sean. Only 3 keeps, rather, for both of these teams. All the outlying forts are down, and it's going to be exciting to see the rest of this match. If we're hitting that point, both teams are going to get level 20. The respawn timers are going to be getting upwards of a minute plus, and that's really the situation where you're on thin ice, and just the smallest of mistake can cost you the game.
What kind of timer do we have here on the boss? 40 seconds and counting. We're going to have everybody up if that is going to be a big target. Now, we did also just finish off the temples. Should be seeing another warning within 60 seconds or so. And within the next 60 seconds, it's up to the teams to kind of try to get as much experience as they possibly can, because both are literally neck and neck looking for that level 20 hype coming through. So coming into this, it's still, I feel, very much anybody's game. Zeratul has died back-to-back, though, and that is a little bit worrisome coming out from McIntyre. He had a really nice set of Void Prisons, but then he just seems to be kind of out of gas a little bit, and I think that the Void Prison into that Maw really didn't do him the big favors that he was looking for. He didn't have the support he needed when that Maw did go down, and whoa, all right, Donlu is going to get out of that sticky situation and immediately stage dive into the bottom lane, because we do have that temple ready to go.
Yeah, a good hook from Arrow is what forced the ETC to have to use Stage Dive defensively, which, again, Stage Dive isn't a huge deal. It's not like they were forcing an Archon. It's not like they forced out a Devouring Maw or anything like that. It's still an important cooldown nonetheless, and oh no, a Party Bush from Donlu. He's going to go in there. McIntyre already getting caught out. A Hammer Justice into Divine Storm. Can they pick him off? They can. A lot of cooldowns being used to try to pick off the Zeratul, but they haven't been able to. A 4-man Void Prison, though, right as they were all grouped up. Spray the Vala Demon Hunter, use Strafe, tried to vault away, but now 4v5. Barrel Boys is on the cusp of hitting level 20. They are ahead in this team fight, about to be ahead levels. There is the Devouring Maw. This might be a turnaround. Nope, it's just going to be a defensive posture, a defensive maneuver, rather, to try to get themselves out of here cleanly, not lose any more, as they know they're on the back foot. But oh boy, Arrow has been so on point with those hooks. They are just executing that so well, Sean. The hook into the Lunar Flare on top of a Blizzard Cone of Cold, and that, my friend, is a good old tasty Double cheeseburger going the way to Barrel Boys.
Level 20, they get the temple, they get the boss, and I think Arrow's been watching Wanted with Angelina Jolie lately because his hooks have just been phenomenally curved.
They've been amazing.
So well. I mean, that ETC, that should have been a creep at the very worst. Not an ETC on that, but the big character model there, that corner of that hitbox somehow got hit by that hook, which led us into the two-man wipe. Now, I gotta say, McIntyre, we just said, looking a little bit shaky there with that late game Zeratul, but a four-man Void Prison led to the premature death of Vala, which means you're out your big DPS source for the team fight. And you saw that we tried to get that defensive maw off for the retreat because there was no way that fight was going to continue. Not with Happy Fairy Dragons down their big Vala DPS. So, man, oh man, Barrel Boys with that race to 20 complete. 21 now. We're still looking for 20 here on the side of the Happy Fairy Dragons, but it has been majority of the game, the map control going the way of the Barrels. They've had almost every tempo. They've had double boss now hype. Then they have themselves a way to the core if this next team fight goes their way.
Yeah, Barrel Boys takes another team fight like that, and that's just outright going to be the game. As you mentioned, that bottom lane is now susceptible to getting the core getting backward through that bottom lane. Now, at this stage of the game, the temple spawnings can get a little random, and there is a potential for a three temple phase where every single one of the temples are alive. And whenever that happens, Zoe and I saw it last night in the monthly. It can turn into this kind of cat and mouse game where one team just kind of keeps rotating in between the temples going, haha, you can't catch me, you can't catch me. And slowly but surely gaining the control of the temples and, maybe getting a couple hits off and retreating, they can get a keep down, they can get a fountain down, or potentially get a core, depending on the structure situation for the team. So it'll be interesting to see if that is going to happen. We're going to see the next temple phase coming up here anytime. And a lot of just ETC aggro. ETC has to be careful here. Stage dive is up, so if he gets caught out, okay. He did get level 20, he got vault, so that was a smart play by him to get out of there because he knew that gank was coming. As Arrow, his hooks have been so on point today. If he keeps that up, that's the Stitches factor, man. You can land one good hook in the late game, and that can just outright win you the game. Absolutely.
And at this point, the death timers are game ending on that as well. We do got the positioning very strong here for the Barrel Boys. They're looking for that hook again, right sneaking through some of those walls. But at this point, again, we have very strong positioning, 10 seconds, and double temples can easily tear down one of these remaining keeps, tear down the gate, possibly even grab both if they do go uncontested. And it looks like it will be a split. Blink's thinking about heading up top. The rest of the team now looking to head into this mid, and that's going to force Happy Fairy Dragons to react. But which way will they go?
Well, right now it's a 4 on the mid temple, 1 on top. Obviously, Brightwing can get into that fight whenever they want. Happy Fairy Dragons picked up the watchtower, so they know that Barrel Boys is on top of this temple. Heroics are up 5 on each side. Donlu is going in there. He's got to be careful. He's going in there real hard. There's a Lunar Flare. There's the damage amplification. Can they get him down? The Balls of the Storm is going to get him away. A 3-man Void's Prison over here in the northwest. Donlu just getting absolutely chased and focused down. The Maw was a little too late. The Jaina is inside of it, but there's going to be no follow-up whatsoever. Without their big front man, Happy Fairy Dragons cannot continue this fight. They got to get out right now, or they're just going to outright lose the game. McIntyre blinking in there, doing some damage. Stray, once again, is taking so much damage. Their protective shield into a Holy Light is going to keep him alive. A defensive Divine Storm. This whole thing. Oh, my Lord. Arrow channeling his inner Dendi. Good Lord. That man is a beast. He is on fire, if you will. And a 3 for nil exchange going the way of Barrel Boys. They're going to get both of these temples. Going to tear away at these keeps. And the only thing left standing is going to be that core.
Said, we're looking at a very strong possibility of both of these keeps getting torn down, and Barrel Boys are going to take the complete shots from both of these temples. Mid already dead in the water. Top is now getting double hit because the mid, there we go, that's the fast 5, and this top one is starting to really just stack up. We've got still 2 people dead in the water. ETC is now back up, but it is the final push into the core, and it looks like it will be once more a Barrel Boy victory on our last matchup. Barrel Boys won this out, I believe, in that best of 3. This time, they only need to do it once, and they will move on to your semifinals here for ESL Go4Heroes Americas Cup number 14.
I have to say, man, Arrow, the MVP that game, those 2 last hooks he landed were just absolutely amazing. That one on ETC, where it was just like, I mean, he was threading that I mean, he threaded that thing in between that creep and that ETC. I didn't realize that was going to hit, and that was absolutely amazing, man. So well played by Arrow and the rest of Barrel Boys. Happy Fairy Dragons, they put up one hell of a fight. They definitely, it was a very even game. They definitely had moments where they had moments and opportunities to get themselves ahead in the game. Unfortunately, weren't able to jump on those opportunities. Getting taken out once again by Barrel Boys. Barrel Boys keeping up that hot streak, remaining undefeated in the past, I think, the past week or two. In ESL Majors, ESL week number 13, and continuing to do so in ESL week number 14.
Now, you would know more about the ESL Majors than I, but they definitely put out a strong show last week for Cup number 13. But, you know, we've seen the Happy Fairy Dragons multiple times in amateur leagues, in the ESL community nights. They have been a team of strong repute and going up again and again up against the Barrel Boys. You know, Barrel Boys edged them out. They had literally the entire game advantage their way. But once the Happy Fairy Dragons kind of crack that code, it's going to be a scary time for the rest of us here. So, but either way, the Dragons from Canada will retire, and it will be the Barrels moving forward into the semis. And taking a quick look here, Shane, who do we actually have up next?
Looking at the bracket, Barrel Boys moving on, and they are going to face, come on website, there we go.
Lunatic. Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be Lunatic. So Lunatic took out Nexus Globetrotters, which is familiar names like Kiefer's and Bella Morte.
Yep.
And Lunatic also is a team that has been performing pretty well as of recent. They, They obviously today have won, and they beat Prime Evil Gamings in week number 12. They went into the quarterfinals in week 13, if I recall correctly. They actually are in the ESL Majors. In the ESL Majors, though, I think they're not doing too well. I think they're actually 0-3, if I remember correctly. But they definitely have shown some promise before.
Right.
And it's going to be a good match. That's going to be a good match no matter what.
All right. So when we come back, guys, it will be the Barrel Boys into the semis up against Lunatic. Winner will move on to the finals. The best of three on the other side of the bracket. Cloud9 Vortex and ESV Wildfire are starting up battle, I believe. Just looking at my friends list, looks like there is a lobby now set ready to go for them. So if you want to watch them, head over to twitch.tv/Messiah. He was the guy that was doing a little bit of casting with last week. He is doing the other side of the bracket here for us today. And when we return here, FourCourtJester and Shane Gucci will have Lunatic Esports up against the Barrel Boys. See you guys in a few.